Welcome to Public Safety Committee meeting. We are here today to talk about two agenda issues. One is we are going to speak on Pell progress. The other is youth policy and the numbers around it so far. So here I'm joined by my colleague Pat Hogan, Rashida Cardwell, Martin Nave, and myself. Here is Chief Shaw and Police Athletic League Director Jimmy Oliver. Thank you, so take it away.
Thank you for having us and allow us the opportunity to present. Jimmy Oliver, and I'm going to leave most of it to him because he's the expert in this. He'll do the PAL portion, and then Deputy Chief Trudell and Sergeant Grimsley will come up and they'll do the youth portion. They have put a lot of effort into this. So, and to be honest with you, they both know a lot more about this than I do. So you'll get a better presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you. Jimmy Oliver, Director of Community Engagement for the Syracuse Police Department, and Director of PAL. PAL started in 2020, December 8th, 2020. Then we launched it to the community June 7th, 2021. To get us to 2021, a host of folks, Chief Shaw, Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens, Lateef Kinsey, the DeWitt Police Department, state troopers, so many people really sat in a room twice a month and planned what this would be. And then we went and took it a step further and reached out to other PAL programs to figure out how we should start this. And we looked at Albany PAL, which have been around since the 1960s, Rochester PAL, 1950s, Buffalo PAL, 1950s, Detroit PAL has been around forever as well. And they all gave us a clear message when we started this. It said, start small. Get it started. This is something new that Syracuse is going to be bringing. Start small. And so that's what we did. And I just want to step a little further back. It came to the desk of the mayor, Ben Walsh, the county executive, Ryan McMahon, Chief Kenton Buckner, the former Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and Youth Program, Otis Jennings, brought it to them. Because if you all remember, during that time, there was a lot of marches in our community, especially what was happening with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all those folks, what happened nationally, and it started to come into our community. And so Otis said, hey, if you want to build a connection with your community and the youth, you need to start a PAL program. Otis Jennings was a part of PAL in New York City. That's the first one, the longest one that started in the 1920s. It was called Play Street. And so planning. We decided to go with 4 one-day camps, which we launched in 2021 in July. We looked at football, kicking it off. I must include our partners, Nottingham High School football players, the athletic department, former coaches, semi-pro folks, police officers. We had about 70 kids there for our first camp. It was for 4 hours. I know one of the things we talk about is impact. That was the first time we presented that to the community, and the stories that we have from our parents, from our kids about that particular day was amazing. And that morphed into our soccer program. Must mention Dale Johnson from Tilly's Touch, his team. They ran the camp for us at Schiller Park. It was in the pouring rain. We had the police department, the Onondaga Sheriff's Department, the district attorney's office, the probation department, the sheriff's department, correction officers in the pouring rain, running skills and drills. with our young people in this community. Then we went on to do dance. Our partners at the Community Folk Art Center, Dr. Tanisha Jackson and her team, we did African dance, we did Ninja Warriors, they did so many art, creative, writing, speaking for our young people. We had Latino dancing, learning how to do salsa. We had officers. Chief Shoft was there serving
You
food.
dance too?
No, he
You don't want to see that.
he served the food, and we worked with a group, Don Juan Cafe, which is on the near west side, who catered that event for us, and the kids had a great meal. And then we closed it out with basketball. The great John Wallace, who again, on this listening and learning tour that I was able to do coming into this new role, I met him, and PAL came up, and he's like, Syracuse don't have a PAL. I was a part of PAL in Rochester. And he started naming off all the officers that impacted his life and made him do push-ups and things of that nature when he was acting up in school. And he said, hey, if there's anything that I can do to support what you guys are doing there, I'm there. And so we were looking for a basketball coach. We had one to run our camp. They had some issue going on, so I reached out to John Wallace, and he came out and ran our camp, him and his son, police officers, sheriffs, state troopers, up at Higher Onondaga. That was one of the places that I identified when I was the Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. We had just revitalized that area. It wasn't getting a lot of use. And I felt like that would be the perfect place for us to do it, and so that's where we did it. And it was just great. I mean, all the chiefs were out there. Everybody was out there. Again, Chief Shoff cooking on the grill, flipping hamburgers, hot dogs, having a good time, just having conversations with our young people, but also having the young people do what they love to do in Syracuse, and that's play basketball. And so talking about those 4 camps, that's why we're able to be here 5 years later, because of people who stood with the police department, stood with the Office of Community Engagement on this new direction of connecting kids, cops, and communities. CFAC, Nottingham High School, Alton Hicks, the coaches, Dr. Tanisha Jackson, Dale Johnson, Tilly Touch, John Wallace, Syracuse University. I could, go on and on and on. People who've sown seeds into this mission. It's been great. I always say the police department during that time took a hit for what was happening nationally, and they swallowed their pride. And was open to this concept to happening. And what I will tell you is all the other police athletic leagues / activities leagues across this country, they started based on the lock key law, where parents were leaving their kids home while they were at work, and the officers found out, and they said, well, let's start this. Here in Syracuse, the reason why I believe we're going to be sustainable and continue to grow is because we decided to do it when it was hard. It was adversity. People didn't believe that we were going to be consistent and intentional about what we said we were going to do. And we were able to do that. We continue to do that. And that's why to date, the number of participants that have been in our program, 10,000 kids have been through the PAO program.
You said 10,000?
10,000. That's duplicated numbers. Unduplicated numbers is 8,900 kids. So that's about between 2,400 kids a year. And that's not just our programs, that's things that we sponsor, events that we do that have kids, school events, and all those different things where we have police officers where we're engaging with those.
How do you track this number, Jimmy?
So there's a program called Open Forums that the city of Syracuse has. And what we do is, and this was the best, we were doing handwritten applications when we first started, and we came across this software through partners in the city hall. We were able to create a QR code, and our parents were able to scan because everybody has a phone. We're able to scan, and this information, once they scan it, it goes to this software, so we can tell where the kids go to school, what's their zip codes, how much their parents make, how many times have they been involved in PAL, do they enjoy the fact that their kids are engaging with law enforcement, have their kids met police officers while engaging in what we do, a variety of different things that we do. Gender. We have over 74% of our kids are males. 25,
73?
74%.
74,
Percent. 25% are females, and this is something, as we continue to do it, and we're working on different initiatives to try to engage our young girls in our program, and whether it's volleyball, whether it's our Girls Going Tech program that's sponsored through Micron, really being intentional about how we attract and also asking questions. We do a lot of surveys with our students that we get from Syracuse University, Maxwell, the Falk School, to the Community Link program, where they dive deep into our data and try to give us some feedback on how we should do certain things. And
Do we know the average age, Jimmy?
yep, our average age, we go from 5 to 16. 5 to 7 is 11%. 8 to 10 is 37%. 11 to 13 is 36%. And 14 to 16-year-olds are 15%.
So out of this 15, out of this 11 to 13 and 14 to 15, so say 11 to 16, basically. When you look at the data of the youth involved, and we'll talk about this later, youth may be involved with officers and law enforcement. Do we know, if we track, if there's any of this individual in the number of youth, or is it nothing?
Well, what I would say is that we, when we advertise, when we recruit, we send it to all of our schools. We have a partnership with the marketing team at the Syracuse City School District, where every time we put a flyer together, we send it to them for approval. They then send it back. Then we go into the schools and hand deliver it to the schools, and then we send it out via email. We attract a very diverse group of kids. One of the examples I will give you, and we brought it in front of the council, was our March Madness basketball tournament that we did on Fridays and Saturday nights from 8 p.m. to midnight.
Great turnout.
Great turnout.
Great
Yep.
turnout.
Quite a few counselors were there, elected officials, community folks, and I know there was some concern about having kids stay out to midnight, transportation and all of those different things. And I tell you, in the 2.5 years that we did it, there was only one incident that we had, because what we knew is that if we gave, and this was for 13 to 18-year-olds. They came from all across the city, all walks of life.
That's one of the requirements. You have to be a city resident.
No,
because
you
it's-
don't.
Okay, so suburban kids
yeah,
can...
suburban kids can come. We have kids as far as North Syracuse, Skinny Atlas, DeWitt, Fayetteville, Manlius, Tully, who are hearing about what we're doing, and they want their kids to be a part of it. And I can tell you what the percentage. I mean, 86% of the kids are cities of Syracuse residents. And you had to be there to see it. They're
I was there.
vying.
It was
for,
good.
Yeah, they're vying for a T-shirt that says "Champion" on the back. This is something when I went around the community and asked them what they wanted. Everyone remembers the Southwest March Madness tournament. Everyone remembered the Boys and Girls Club March Madness program that we used to do back in the day. And so we brought it back. You go from the first week, we have a police van that has Syracuse police on it. And because we got to take kids home, we want to make sure kids get home safe. And so the first couple, times we did it, we probably had 3 or 4 kids that wanted to ride with the police in the police van, and they wanted to make sure that we dropped them off a block before we got to their house because, at the time they didn't want to be seen. But by the end of the week, we're dropping kids off in front of their house. They're laughing. There's detectives taking kids, because they're hungry at the end of basketball. They're taking them to McDonald's. They're taking them to Taco Bell. They're having conversations about what they want to do. That's not with me in the room. That's one-on-one with an officer having those conversations. And the officer saying, I didn't get home till 3 o'clock. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't get home until 3 o'clock? She was like, the kids were hungry. And I'm like, what? And McDonald's was closed. And then they went to Taco Bell. And it was just like, it was just amazing. And every week, and then, Sergeant Hillman, he came and he was taking kids home. And, and the kids were running to the vehicle. They no longer wanted to be in the van. They wanted to be with those specific officers to take them home. And that little bit of time, it goes a long way to changing perceptions and things of that nature. And
Can I say this? And I'm just going to say sentiment of everything you said. I went to multitude of what PAL has done, and there are kids from all across, which I loved. The March Madness, I love that. I was there volunteering. I have nothing but say thank you, kudos, that we got to continue to build those relationships with our kids. I have one request, and I don't know if it's possible. When I think of police PAL program, the police athletic program, the relationship with the police, and I don't know if it's possible, if it could be like police, fire, PFAL, like there's any way we can bring that on, because our fire department are first responders in the city of Syracuse. So those are sometimes the first people that children are seeing on emergencies going into the homes, into the communities. If we could build that into corporation of PAL, I think it would even take us, I think it would be a model that we would start that other people would want to be a part of, especially with us having the fire program at PSLA, with our youth being a part of wanting to be, into fire. So I love what the PAL does. I love the programming. I love the diversity. And a lot of times these are kids that are not playing high school sports, or these are kids that just want to be kids, and they're playing. And that part just makes my heart beat. So, you got thumbs up for me with that. You know what I mean?
And I appreciate that. I really do. I think that we could, collaborate with the fire department. And as anybody who lives in the city of Syracuse, the fire department, everybody loves the fire department. The kids and, all the things that they have been doing historically. And I recognize that because a lot of folks said that when I was going around this community. But I really wanted to have this for the police department. The police department deserves to have something like this. And it's coming around. We're doing so much that we don't advertise. The leadership in the police department has been open to anything and everything that we do. And I think we're now starting to see the return on investment. And
I love it. I just want collaboration, because collaboration is going to be so supportive for our community, that they see that we're one. We're not different.
Yep.
We're all first responder. Well, I'm not, but you guys are first responder, and we're a team. So I love,
Yep.
like I said, I love the Pell program. I think it's phenomenal.
So-
Just adding that piece would be great.
No, it's a great,
Especially
it's
even
great.
finances, because fire have researched the money that police sometimes, you know what I mean, coming together can probably bring more and more supports and finances to the program.
So, and you probably don't know, so if you could, because I'm looking at around impact, you know, larger impact than the front, right? Larger impact in a sense that as youth go through this program and are engaged, is it creating like a snow effect in terms of their larger life? So between, like I was saying earlier, between age 11 to like 16 in the city, you know, as you keep track of, you know, youth that are, you know, just as involved, you know, how many of these PAL youth are there? Are they not there? Because that could also be a good, you know, credit to the department, saying that, you know, if you look at our youth, those that are involved, there are chances that once they are involved with PAL, you know, it affects their larger life as well, in which we don't have to deal at the back end with justice and involve youth, you know, because they are not, because they see something more than just, you know what I mean? So see if you can dig into those numbers and compare whoever of those kids that are just as involved, has any of them been through PAL? Because when you take that number, do you take the names as well of the kids?
Yeah, we have their first, last name,
So
their
that would
parents'
be a
name.
lot easier for you
But
So
even,
can I
track.
just ask,
even more to that, for the long term, are you able to break out, well, I'm pretty sure you are, but maybe giving us the numbers out of that 10,000, the individuals who have gone through your direct programs versus events? So, yeah, that would be helpful, because then that's a separate group, people who are in a program with you for weeks versus people who have attended, you know, occasional events.
Yep, we have all, you know, I'll definitely get that information to you. You know, we're very young, but what I will tell you is 4 years from now, the kids who started with us in 2021 will be graduating from high school.
Yeah.
We'll get a chance to see whether they become police officers, go off to college, become entrepreneurs, because what we're doing, I want people to understand that you see police athletic. That's not all we do. When you talk about literacy in our schools, we are doing a literacy league that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years, where we have SU students reading with our kids, writing with our kids, and we're doing that right at the police department on the 5th floor, where we have a gym, where we have classrooms. When you talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, since 2021, we've been going up to Syracuse University working with the engineering department, the mathematics department, the physics department, the engineering department. Kids from 6 to 13 been on campus a week long. We've been going to ESF for the last 4 years, 6 to 13-year-olds that are learning the environmental side of STEM. We've been doing that. You know, again, when I was the Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, what we identified is that, and one of your former colleagues, Councilwoman Grinnell, said, how can we start investing in the kids who live, eat, sleep, play here to become lifeguards? That was a directive to me. So I oversaw the aquatics department, so I went to those folks in the aquatics department, because every one of those individuals who was in our aquatics department were recruited at Corcoran, Nottingham, Henniger, and ITC. And I challenged them to go into our community centers and start engaging in our young people so that we can start building our base. Because every single year, we have to put in a waiver to get folks outside the city to come and be lifeguards. And then they are not familiar with our young people, and there's discrepancies. And so I started that there, and we started doing that at all of our community centers. And then when I came over to the police department, for the last 4 years, we've had over 400 kids who we've been teaching how to swim. And some of them are lifeguards in our pools. And because what we recognize is that our kids don't know how to swim. Our parents don't know how to swim. And they were afraid, because we're doing it at Nottingham. Their big Olympic-sized swimming pool. Imagine a 6-year-old, we talk about impact. Imagine a 6-year-old who is afraid of water, never been in water before, and go up to Nottingham to go into that pool. They're crying, they're screaming, they don't want their parents to leave. But the team, Ed Curl and his team of lifeguards, built relationships with our young people, encouraged them, took them step by step, moving them inches and inches and inches closer to that water. And then they got them in. Day 5, Friday, that same kid is jumping off the diving board in 16 feet of water and swimming over to the ladder. That's what the Syracuse Police Department is doing. That's what we've been doing, because we recognized there was a problem. How do we get more lifeguards? We got to put more kids in the water, and that's what we've been doing the last 4 years with that. In science, like I said, graduations, like I said, in 4 years, we will see that first group of kids. And again, they're from all over the city. You know, they're at the city schools, they're at private schools, they're outside the county, but those kids have been with us since 2021 and have been a part of our program. And if I could just go a little step further.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to pass you guys this, because this will, we just hosted, our inaugural awards ceremony about a year or so ago, where we wanted to highlight police officers, our kids, our partners, because had it not been for them, we wouldn't be where we are. And we hosted that event up at Burnett Park in the indoor ice skating rink. And that'll give you just a little, a little story of our partners, of our reach and what we've been doing. And then I brought this basketball.
For me?
No, we actually use this on Saturdays for our basketball league. But this basketball has significance. It's not a Wilson, it's not an NCAA basketball. But again, early on when I started in 2021, just trying to figure out what was going to set us, aside from other folks that are working with kids, and how could we illuminate other programs and businesses across this country that are doing the same similar things or just getting their start. This young man and his father in Atlanta, Georgia, 14 years old, this is his basketball that he created. Because him and his father recognized that other businesses were monopolizing and the cost and things of that nature. And so the police department was their first order in 2021. Their first order, our kids use that ball, have been using that ball for the last 4 years in our basketball league. And if you go, this is the article.
I don't think you're getting that ball back.
That's the article on the organization. The website is at the top. You guys can keep that so you can see. But that's as far as the police department and PAL goes, in other states. And then the final thing, we talk about reading and literacy and building relationships and things of that nature, is this book. Derek Dodson wrote this book called The Police and Me. I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning, couldn't sleep, scanning CNN online, and I came across this book. One of the things is, how can we start having those conversations at 0 instead of having them at 100? And this book gives us the opportunity to go and read this book to kids and pass it out to kids. PAL brought the author here to Syracuse and went around to schools, met with the chiefs, met with the mayor, met with the district attorneys, met with the school district. And what this morphed, this seed that we were able to plant, is the Syracuse Police Department is going around to every one of our elementary and middle schools and reading this book. And the impact of this is that when you sell over 1,000 copies of a book, the New York Times sends you a letter saying you sold. This author, because of what we did in the Syracuse Police Department, got that letter. And we're doing that consistently. And it just talks about, if you get pulled over, what are the do's and don'ts? What are the different roles and responsibilities in the police department? Our team, our leadership, have tasked folks in the, I think we purchased somewhere around 1,500 copies of this book. So that's, another one of the impacts. And then I have one final thing. Because we don't have a building, because we can't, be in front of the kids consistently Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday like we want to be, we have to use our partners like the Community Folk Arts Center. And this summer, our kids were able to do poetry, effective speaking, a variety of different things where we put our kids on stage and they get to go up in front of that microphone and, my name is such and such and this is what I love. But they also, what does PAL mean to me? I've always wanted to know, because we've never asked, we never had time to do that. Well, what does PAL mean to the kids? And one of our young ladies wrote a poem about PAL this summer. And she says, we love PAL. Her name is Yu Sung. She's 3rd year in PAL. And she says, when attending PAL camps, everyone feels like a champ. Living the dream, overseeing the storm, valuing friends in every form, encouraging everyone to beam, peacefully through play, and always loved and appreciated every day. This is one of the kids. She's in 3rd grade. She wrote that poem over the summer, and one of the instructors gave that to me. And there's a whole bunch of them that they gave. But it blew me away because this is something that I always wanted to know.
Did she put it together like this, or
Well,
you guys
we
helped
kind
her?
of designed, we designed, because it was going to go in our newsletter, but I didn't want to put it out there because I really wanted her to be able to do it. But she wrote it, and like to see the kids get up there on that stage and you see their personality, and for CFACT and their team to do that on behalf of us was amazing. And it was, emotional, because that's how the kids feel. That's not what Jimmy's saying. That's what they're saying we're about. And that's what the police department and PAL's been doing.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Anybody?
I want to make a comment. I was at an award ceremony last year, and I'm going to share this story. Last year we lost Ashton Day Gonzaga, and he was a member of PAL. He got to the ball games, and I saw your love. And it was a tearful funeral that day, and we sat together, and we know that was harder on you because he was like a son to you. And if people don't know, you know, sometimes you want to save everyone, but sometimes as they get a little older, we can't control what goes on in the home. We don't. And I know how we felt that day. If we could only had saved him, and it wasn't possible. But you did everything you could with Pal, and so much love that you give to kids who don't know what love is. And many of those kids see you as their father in their situations. When you may not see it, Jimmy, they love you as a father. And you give them love because they don't get it at home. So I want to say thank you. And I want to thank you, Chief Schaaf. I've known you for many years. You've always been there with our neighborhood watch meetings going back when you were a sergeant, and the service that you have given our community. I can't say thank you enough. I can't say thank you. Thank you for all you've done for our community as well. And I hope, Jimmy, you will continue doing what you do great. But thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question. I know you have the, like, pals in the parks type of things. Are those, like, on the same dates every year, or is it, or
Yep.
close to?
Yeah, we try to, in the summer, our summer camps, which is longer than our other, but we try to do everything the same time. Because, you know, we want to keep the schedule on the parent
Yeah.
schedule, and we're very, so.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
All right, and can
Yep.
you make sure to send that schedule to our office so that we can have it as well?
Yep, absolutely. Who do I send that to? 'Cause I don't really know.
Nathan,
Caleb
Nada.
or
Nada,
later.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, because I was gonna ask, you know, to have maybe schedule for, if you do anything weekly, especially around winter, kids are inbound, and to see if you guys are doing anything, you know, we can spread that around the neighborhoods and making sure that they get it. So is it like weekly, or is it seasonal?
It's seasonal.
Seasonal,
We would
okay.
love to do it weekly.
Okay.
If we had a space to do it weekly. And, you know, if that's one of the things that, when we were planning this, something that we need. And I think we may be inching closer. We have some folks who have approached us about certain things, but we would love to do it weekly. Our parents would love to have their kids dropped off at our center and do homework and do these different things. We would love it because we're already doing it with our limited capacity, but we would love to. I mean, we would have a filled place, you know.
Any partnership with school districts?
Yeah,
Because you got
yeah.
all this gym in every
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. I mean, we do. We partner. We partner with Tom Farrar and, Chantel at the school district. We host our basketball leagues at Ed Smith. We do our Christmas celebrations at Roberts, at Henniger, at Nottingham, all over the place. We do that. But the thing is, we have to be able to separate. They're in school 8 hours a day. That's 40 hours a week. They need a space to disconnect from that, but also being able to reinforce what they're doing in the classroom. But it needs to be separate. I would love to use a school, but I want them to be removed from that. We want them to be removed from that.
So, Jimmy, you looked at other buildings or anything like that? That's the next step, is to get
Yeah,
a center?
it's, to be quite, if I had to be frank, we need to build something from the ground up. We looked at the Boys and Girls Club, which I think would have been a perfect place for us because we had done a lot of programs there. Unfortunately, that has passed us by. But there's some folks that we're in early conversations with that want to sow a seed into our community. And they have approached me. And when those conversations we'll definitely bring you all in and the leadership in. But I'm hesitant to mention those folks because other folks, once they hear, they want to, how can we help? And so I think, we could build something for, $4 million that would be efficient for every kid in this city to be able to come to. We identify locations that would be neutral for everyone, but I strongly believe that we could bring kids from the east side, south side, west side, north side in one space. But you have to have the individuals running that space who have relationships with kids who are going to hold them accountable and set the expectation to where it needs to be. Because our kids can mix and mingle together. That notion that we can't is false.
So speaking of the grant, you got, you good? Speaking of the grants, and so PAL has been funded by ARPA for the last, what, 3-4 years, right? And
Three,
right.
4 years.
3-4 years, 3-4 years. And then as we go into 2025 to 2026, I think grants are picking up, right? Over ARPA to cover, right? So I think we currently have a grant.
Correct.
How much is that?
It's $450,000.
$450,000, okay.
And just to give you some context on the ARPA money, that $300,000 that we got,
Yeah.
that was for like infrastructure, getting us started and things of that nature, marketing and, you know, those type of things. And so that was for 6 to 12-year-olds. That was our first phase. That's where we wanted to start. Our second phase, which this $450,000 is for our 14 to 19-year-olds. In my opinion, those are the individuals who need us the most. Those are the ones that are being attracted to, you know, the vandalism, breaking in cars, all those different things. I know a lot of people don't tend to want to work with that, but that's the demographic. So the second phase was for that 14 to 18, and that's what that $450,000 will go through.
14 to 18. And how many
19.
years is it? 19. How many years is that?
3 years, 4 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years, 4 years.
Okay.
And then our third phase will be 20 to 25. So we want to be able to help our kids from 6 to 25, because when you get to 20, 25, I'm getting my first job, I'm graduating from college, buying my first house. I don't know how to do that. What if I haven't been exposed? I want them to be able to come back to us and ask those questions, and we be able to guide. And I really took that idea from when I was in Virginia. We tend to, when our kids flourish at the age limit, we kind of push them out and say, you're on your own, and then they struggle and blah, blah, blah. But we want to be able to do that, and I think if we're able to do that, we'll see a lot of different impact stories and missing moments.
What about, you know, we have Exalt program coming in. Have you looked at where you could collaborate with Exalt?
Yeah,
It's gonna be different. You don't-
I've researched Exalt. It was brought to my attention maybe like a year and a half or so ago. I know they're housed in New York City. They work with at-risk youth who are, I think, 14 to 20 or something to that effect. I think where we could partner is having that program come and be like peer mentors, because I see the success stories that they've had in New York City and what they're trying to do. I get, you know, weekly newsletters from their CEO to my personal email, and seeing what they're doing. They have some fantastic kids. They have some fantastic, I think there's room for improvement. And I know it's starting early here in Syracuse, but I think once we get to the level of where they are in New York City, I do believe that they could be mentors to our kids and people.
And I'm asking that, Jimmy, because, you know, we knock on wood that none of our PAL kids get to be just as involved in any way, knock on wood, right? But if in case that happens, right, it'd be a good collaboration, because with Exalt, you know, it's a recommendation. You're not forced to it. You're not forced into the program. It's a recommendation. So if we can catch those youth early and be able to say, okay, you were in PAL, you know, you've been great. Here, the other level to take you up, because with Exalt, they are pushing them into a professional world.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And would be a great bridge if there were those kids involved in those spaces to say, Exalt, take over. We are here to support. So I guess that would be some space of collaboration in a sense. But knock on wood, let's make sure none of our kids go through.
Our kids, they're not gonna, well, let's talk offline, because with being over parks, I got some stuff to give you offline. You know what I mean? Tell you some-
Yeah. Okay.
So one
any
more
other
thing.
question?
Yeah,
Yes.
one more thing. So as far as the phase 2 and phase 3. What about staff capacity?
Yeah, that's a great question. We would love to, have staffing, love to have, 6 part-time staff, an assistant director, a director of communication and marketing, as I believe that's where we are. A person who can oversee our grants as well, because I currently am the one who does that and reporting and things of that nature, and person who can go and find other opportunities for us, which I'm really not a big fan of grants because they run out and then you got to find another grant. I prefer individual donors because you can get a variety of those folks. But yeah, we need a staff of, if we want to do a building, it's going to be a staff of 20 to 25. If we keep it where it is now, we're going to need a staff of 15. Because currently, the staffing that I use is myself and my interns that I get from Syracuse University. They help do that. And a lot of these kids are, trying what they're going to do in the real world. And so just being creative, but that's what I would say. In the short term, I would say between 12 and 15. And then if we were able to get, a facility, I would say 20 to 25 people.
All right, any other questions? Well, Chief, Jimmy, I want to thank both of you for spending some time with us and running us through the impact of PAL. It's exciting, and I think for a takeaway, if you can get us some of your schedule, maybe the counselors are around neighborhood, if we can push them out and encourage young people to take part in your programs.
Thank you. I think it's a valuable exercise. We got some good ideas out of here, and we'll work on them.
All right, thank you. So let's get the other agenda item on.
Yeah, got to start on time because of the TV.
Oh,
Yeah.
with
No, it starts. Oh. Jimmy's is.
so it's not the police, it's together?
Wait a second, I'm sorry, am I supposed to speak? Is this the next meeting?
No, not the fire. It's part of the same.
I thought it was the fire.
Yeah, no,
You're not fired.
yeah.
Wait a minute, there's another agenda on this.
So the youth side of this, it was two items. The youth, PAL and the youth policy.
And fire?
Fire, with the Titanic with the fire, with the, yeah.
What's this one?
Huh?
What are you doing next? What are we doing?
Youth policy.
Huh?
Youth police policy. Okay.
You should have ended out faster.
What happened?
I need coffee.
Okay, so give it to us dry. Again, we are transitioning into the second part of this meeting, which is to look at the youth policy and
Jimmy.
some updates from our
Hold on.
January meeting, if there.
Jimmy, can y'all go that way? Yeah. Sorry.
All right, yeah, Deputy Chief Rich Trudell, I know you've met Sergeant Brian Grimsley before he came back in earlier in the year.
January, yeah.
Certainly a tough act to follow when you start moving from PAL into the actual criminal arrest numbers for juveniles, but I do think there is a direct correlation in terms of what the police department's doing in this diversionary efforts and how it directly relates into PAL. So the two are definitely integrated. So what I thought we'd go over some crime numbers first. Jump into any policy highlights. We try to stay with best practices, so we have made changes to our policy since we last spoke on this issue. And then maybe get into some of the enforcement and diversion efforts that we have within the police department. So in terms of crime numbers, I'll share this if you want to pass them down. So we broke out the crime within the last 6 years, and this is just juveniles, and the ages of the juveniles are 12 to 17. 12 to 17. And we started in 2020, and you can see we looked at countywide and citywide. And you see how in 2020, the numbers are lower, and then they get even lower when you go into 21 and 22. And that's largely related to COVID. and the reductions in crime really nationwide and within our city that were reflective of that. When you get into 23, both looking at the city and countywide arrests, that's when we started to see pockets of juveniles working together and going after the Kias, Hyundais, that TikTok challenge. We saw a large increase in the number of pattern burglaries in both the city and the county. And when you talk about the criminal trend of like a small percentage of people committing a large portion of the crime, and you see that in shots fired, you see that in a lot of the different aspects of criminology, that holds true with this juvenile issue too. And that is really what we're seeing today as well, is that, when we look at our increase in burglaries, some of our top offenses, it's a single group or groups of kids that are doing that. So we peak at 2024 with 685 arrests in the county and 368 in the city. And then you see a marked decrease. And I think that has a lot to do with our enforcement efforts and our diversion efforts, PAL being one of them. I can get into more of that towards the end. When you talk about juveniles, you also got to talk about recidivism. And we do see, and you can look at those recidivism numbers, the number of kids that are getting arrested repeatedly. Those are the kids that we try to focus on with some of our programming and some of our enforcement efforts. With our crime analysis, we look at who those kids are. Can we get them into PAL? Can we look at Trinity, what we look at in our mayor's office to reduce gun violence meetings? If that's not working, work with our probation county attorneys on the enforcement side. So you can see some recidivism numbers there. And then to give you a flavor of what it looks like in terms of ages, we broke out 15 and under, so that's 12 to 15 years of age, which are 4 age groups there, right, 4 years, compared to our 16 and 17-year-olds, and as those kids start to mature. And it's, a little bit more on the 16 to 17-year-olds, but again, that there's a 4-year age group in one and a 2-year age group in the other. So you can see that, percentage-wise, we do see more 16 and 17-year-olds arrested. So that's a good sense of, the numbers and how they've been trending over the last few years in terms of arrests. And any questions on that?
The kids who are recidivist, the judicial system's limited on what they can do. It's electronic home confinement, then Hillbrook, right? Is that how it works out, basically?
Yeah.
Same judges all the time?
Yeah, but they're like, and I'll get into that now, but there was a significant movement when we started seeing at the height of our problems with kids breaking into cars or stealing cars and breaking into houses. And as a law enforcement, I'm talking county attorney, district attorney, family court, we all got together and we started looking at this problem, and where we could, under the law, share information, we started doing so. And I really feel like that, when the point we started doing that a year ago, helped to drive down, helped to identify the kids, understand what we can do with them, more communication with probation about suggesting electronic home confinement. I know in family court, they went from multiple judges seeing family court cases to 2. So there was some consistency. Judge Julie Cecil and Judge Zavalia. Yeah. So you started to see maybe, when you started seeing repeat kids coming through, instead of going before multiple judges, you're going before the 2. So there was a bunch of things that were done over the last course of the year. We're meeting bi-weekly. We meet bi-weekly to talk about the 1%, 2% of the kids that are causing all the problems. So yes, there are limitations to the family court system and our justice system, but we can work within those parameters to do a better job. And I think we saw that over the last year.
Can I just ask a question? Because I'm not familiar with the latter judge. Are any of those judges look similar to any of the kids being arrested?
In terms of ethnicity?
Yes.
Where I think you're. No, one's a white male, one's a white female.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have any?
I am not sure of that. That's more family court, but I can find out.
I don't think we have.
Do we have any family court judges that are color, Hispanic?
Well, I know, I think what happened was the law changed, so now with, some of the stuff has to go depending, I remember, they were trying to explain to me, but the logic, because some of them used to go to like regular court, now it gets switched over to family court.
But if you're just talking family court, I don't know. If you're talking
Yeah,
city
I don't
court, then
think
yes,
so.
there are.
City
there's a-
court.
No, I know
obviously.
city court, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, because you're saying that they go between the two. And I mean, it's just like a teacher. I think it's important for people to see individuals who they can relate with.
Understood.
So,
Yeah, it just kind of falls outside the purview of the police department there. So to answer your question, I think, yeah, there are limitations, but we work within those limitations, and I think we have started to become more effective. There's more we can do, but it's definitely helping.
I mean, we run into city councilors, we run into usually the same families that do the same things in the same neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And what I worry about, more or less, not only because of the damage they do to the neighborhoods, but also what happens to them. Because down the road, sometimes that might be a real issue too.
And when you are identifying the individuals who are continuing to do things or, continue to be arrested and sending them through programming, how have you found that to be effective? And I ask because in the North and South Valley area, there was a group of kids who were like busting windows and things of that nature, throwing rocks at cars in the mornings. And I got involved and found out that some of them were already in program with what's Hassan's Good Life.
Good Life Foundation.
And so then Good Life got involved. Myself, Good Life, and the principal, we all worked together. It was roughly 3 kids. 2 of them have gone on the straight and narrow, I'll say. One of them I haven't been able to reach, but they may have.
Yeah, I think the stories that I would have are similar to that, but I do think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of the enforcement side and where you can send over to PAL, right? And we do have examples of kids that we have worked with that were criminally justice involved, and we send to PAL and they become successes within that PAL program. We also have Trinity. Trinity has been with our community for a number of years, and that's where we take kids, we put them with caseworkers, we follow them, we understand what the problem is in their environment.
Yes,
Right?
that's
Whether
what I
it's
was-
truancy, family, anger issues, whatever it may be, and then try to get them the proper resources within our community. And we have success stories there. Exalt was on my list, right? That's the next thing that's coming to Syracuse in terms of, volunteerism at internships that can, help with these kids. So I think it's a mixed bag. I think you have to have the enforcement for the kids that aren't, listening or they're not taking advantage of the diversion. But we also have, our successes within that diversionary system as well.
So Trinity is a separate program?
Yes.
And who's
Yep.
that run by?
It's run by the police department, but it's run through funding through the police department in combination with a number of different, partners, Salvation Army, and then all of the things.
so
that
it's
Good Life-
wraparound services.
Yes, it absolutely
Okay.
is. And then all of the folks that you just talked about, Good Life,
Yeah.
we have the resources within the community. We understand what the kid needs, and then we try to get the kid into those different programs within the community.
Excuse me. And roughly how many youth have you worked with in Trinity? Do you know?
So that's a great question. Trinity's been around for years. I will have to get you that number. It is something that we keep track of each year, but we've had Trinity in our community for 4 or 5 years now. So,
Who runs that in the department? Is that under you?
Lieutenant Hillman, when I left Intel, Lieutenant Hillman took over the grant that covers that, and now Sergeant Breen's in there, but it's largely run by the Salvation Army, who we fund through some of our gun violence reduction money.
Yeah, can we have some numbers?
Yeah,
to
sure.
Council
Trinity numbers, we can
Rouser
definitely get that for
point?
you
Yeah,
as well.
that would be
And can you
wonderful.
just give me a little more in-depth detail on the truancy? Because I see so many youth out during the day that I was completely confused as to why. I mean, they're out in groups. It's like, it can't be like no one sees them. Everyone's seeing them.
Yeah, no, so it's more of a combination that we work with the school district. We don't have a truancy, obviously, we don't have a truancy van. There's no, per se law that's gonna allow us to pick up a kid. I mean, that's in, that presents challenges in and of itself, putting an officer in that position. But I will say that we work with the school district on all of these programs, whether it be Trinity, soon to be Exalt, and identifying those kids that are truant and working together to get them into those programs. But it's not like the police department is out trying to enforce getting those kids back into school. There's a whole number of host of reasons that doesn't work.
So versus, I guess it's versus two things, picking them up, you aren't able to take their names. That way you can find out, what schools they go to, have they been in school, and follow up that
Yeah,
route? Because
yeah.
I don't think the schools are reporting that these kids are not in school.
So yes, we definitely do. That's exactly what we do. When we run into kids that we know are criminal justice involved.
No, I'm not saying they're criminal justice involved. I'm just
Yeah.
saying they aren't going to school.
Yeah, so we are not just specifically looking at kids that aren't going to school. We are looking at, from the police department's perspective, we're looking at kids that are about to become criminal justice involved because they're at high risk or they're criminal justice involved. And that is when we look at whether or not truancy is a component of that. But the police department's not out just looking at truant students alone without having that criminal justice nexus.
Well, when you say about to be criminal justice, like, I think that is the route. If they're not going to school, they're out in the streets, they're going to be getting into things eventually.
I totally agree with you. Totally. All I'm saying is that it's not just truancy. It's truancy coupled with some sort of criminal nexus for the police department to be able to get involved.
Well, I think we are running out of time. Is it possible, Sergeant, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible, Sergeant, for you to maybe talk about how we regulate other law enforcement entity like sheriff, running things in town? Because early last year, we had an incident where a sheriff, arrested.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one
And
of
then
the,
we talked about,
That's right.
figure out some parameters around that.
so the short answer is we don't really have an avenue to regulate an agency like the county or the troopers and what they do in terms of their common practices and procedures, right? There's a set of state regulations on how to interact with juveniles when it comes to arrest procedures, temporary custody, things of that nature. But in terms of street level operations of handcuffing and detainment and things of that nature, we and they don't really have an avenue to dictate each other's policies, if that makes sense. So we have our own set of policies that set up how officers are to interact with juveniles in terms of handcuffing, detainment, making notifications if there is a detainment of a juvenile, how they're detained temporarily at our agency, or the PSB and things of that nature. But there isn't really an avenue other than, say, pick up the phone and have some conversation to really force another agency to change their operative procedures outside of what New York State and the federal government already says.
Any conversation around, because what happened earlier this year was disheartening, for the kids and for the families and for our city. Has there been an informal or some sort of an agreement with the sheriff that if you run into something like that, can we collaborate? We know you can, Syracuse is within the county of Onondaga, and there is that, territorial, overlaps that can happen. Is there a way we can maybe have an informal agreement with them that if there is such a thing, because I believe our police officers who are patrolling our streets every day are much more culturally aware than somebody coming from Madison County to here.
Yeah. So I can probably answer that. Yes, there are informal conversations that occur, right? Particularly after that incident. But I think I'll have to rely back on Sergeant Grimsley. We can't dictate that, right? So we collaborate with the Sheriff's Department on a number of different things, gun violence, burglaries, that sort of thing. So we did talk about this particular incident, but and what they do, we cannot control, right? So I think what's important, though, is we learned from that incident and we made specific changes to our policy. Our policy always had restrictions on age and only could handcuff with certain criteria that we can go over in a second. But then we went and we added that there has to be a parental notification as well. So we always notified parents when we made an arrest. But if we put handcuffs on a kid and then find out that we're not going to make an arrest because we're going to divert, there's also a mandatory notification there as well that was added to our policy subsequent to that incident. So when I say that we look at best practices and learn, we do. We absolutely do. And we have that in our policy. But it's very hard for us to control outside of those informal conversations, another entity that has legal jurisdiction in our city.
Okay, and just to add to that particular situation, the push to remove bystanders could possibly have been worse, I'll say, not for the ones that were there, but had those kids left, that little girl would have been left by herself. Is that something that you are addressing? Because they weren't, unruly or anything, but that's the first thing that when officers come and there's multiple people, they're constantly telling people to move away from the scene or back up. And that could have taken a turn.
Yeah.
So when it comes to youth, how are you guys addressing that?
So I think I understand your question, but I might need some clarification on it. So I think that.
So what I'm saying is just like Mr. Oliver just expressed, they had provided a book for youth to understand how you interact with police. Everyone doesn't have that knowledge. And if those youth seemingly got a little rowdy, they're 12 and 13, how would those officers would have handled them?
So I think that's where the counselor talked about. I mean, we train our officers in cultural diversity.
But those aren't your officers.
Right.
That's what
So,
I'm
and
saying.
again, I'm sorry, but I just can't speak to the sheriff's department's actions in the city. When it comes to us learning from that in the city, that occurred in the city, yes, and absolutely, we are taking steps, we are training our officers, but when it comes to the sheriff's department, that wasn't our incident. We weren't there,
Yeah.
we have no control over it, but we certainly recognized it, made changes, and I think we have trained our officers in a different way that would handle situations with more of their training in mind when it comes to that cultural diversity or discretion in dealing with juveniles.
Chief, procedurally, what would happen if, during that incident, if the SPD had arrived? Would SPD be in charge, or would the sheriffs be in
No,
charge?
I mean, that's going to be, we're going to assist, and our supervisors would show on scene, and where we could intervene in situations that we didn't agree with, we would try to do that. But, that scene or that crime is the sheriff's department's.
So once they
Yeah,
initiate
that's-
action,
yeah.
it becomes theirs, right?
Right.
And I think, I'm sorry, Chief. And I think where we are trying to go with it, Chief, is there is this, discomfort around and sheriff just, forcing their way. And I know they got to do their job, forcing their way, and to be honest, it's not always pretty, and for us as a city, there gotta be a way where if a sheriff forced their way into the city as an entity that is in the front of protecting this city, that there is a collaboration that gotta happen. I don't know what that would look like, and we may need to explore that further.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we can have conversations with the sheriff's department, and like I say, I don't want to paint them in a different light than this. We have strong collaborations with the sheriff's department. All I'm saying is that we can't dictate their policy, we can't dictate the way they do their job, but we do have strong collaborations, and I think we can work on doing more of that now, right? So that maybe we can alleviate some of those situations that we're talking about in the future.
And I think we got to realize that not only a complex situation, but also you know, we have 40 open positions in the city police department. We depend on them to help us out a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have strong collaborations. I mean, when it comes to reducing gun violence, I can't think of a partner that's been stronger when it comes to those efforts in the city and always willing to step up. I just need to be clear about our ability to dictate their policy on, you know, handcuffing juveniles and making it in line with ours and exactly the way we do it. We just don't have that capability. And we will make further inroads. We've already done that. We've had those informal conversations. We will do what we can. There's a balance there.
Yeah, and you know, we obviously have laws that will govern that relationship in terms of jurisdiction. But there's, to your point, collaboration is key. Yeah. And how do we enhance that collaboration to make sure that as they enter into the city, that at least the presence of SPD is there? You know, yes, they can do their job, but our presence need to be there in some shape or form.
Yeah, and I think I guess the answer is I don't have a good one for you right now when it comes to us being in the city with them every time they are. But we can work towards some different solutions, maybe some more collaboration when it comes to that. But yeah, I hope you understand. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to say that they are their own separate legal law enforcement agency with a jurisdiction that overlaps with ours, right? So, you know, I think I'll leave it at that.
And I think Sarge will push this on you to kind of go sleep over it and think it over in what ways we could. And then obviously, as you said, it's not a black and white kind of thing. It needs to be explored a little further and to see what options we come up with, and maybe we can follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having just a conversation with the sheriff's agency, the sheriff's department in terms of how they run things and, you know, seeing if there's room for, like I said, some sort of two-way communication.
We are running super late. And Chief,
These Friday meetings, Counselor.
anything pressing you want to add? Because we can follow up another time, but anything pressing?
No, I think we covered a lot of the points that we wanted to cover.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the
So
data.
follow up with the
Yeah,
Trinity
Trinity
numbers.
numbers coming your way, yes, absolutely.
Thank you for the data. We appreciate
We
it.
have it. Congratulations on your promotion.
I'm sorry?
I said congratulations
Oh,
on your
thank you, sir, I
promotion.
appreciate that, yes, thank you.
We want to take 5 minutes recess, and then we get, all right, this will end this meeting, and we'll be back.
Motion to adjourn, yeah.
Second.
Second? All right.
Jeez, we
Adjourn.
have to do everything.